Hey YouTube, so I'm updating on my GT225 John Deere project here. I was able to install the 42-inch snowblower, and with a little bit of tweaking, it seems to be working very well. I've had to do a couple things, which I'll cover in a few, but I have put on the tire chains and the 50-pound weights. Those are a little difficult to get on, but well worth the traction. I also did put the rear hitch on, so I can move my 5x8 trailer around the yard as I need to, and around the driveway. We have a little bit of a reprieve from the snow here, but what I wanted to mention here is when you're mounting the snowblower or the snow blade, there are lift eyes in the front here, and as you can see, it uses a 3/8 24 thread per inch bolt. I believe it's a grade 8, and the problem is that it really needs to have some spacing underneath in order to lift it up properly, and specifically for my application. The reason being, if you look right here, my backyard slopes down very steeply, and I just put these pieces of wood down so I can not destroy the yard after the snow is all done. But I wanted to be able to lift it up high enough off the ground when it's in the upright position so that it won't start digging into the yard, especially once I get out of the shed here. But I got this installed. The lift kit works great. Added some lithium grease to the worm gear. Pretty much everything is good to go. The chute piece here is a little tight, but that's to be expected here. I did put the protective hose on this. Unfortunately, it looks like I may only get a season or two out of it. I can't put it in this eye here because it's just going to bind up and when I'm trying to move the chute left or right. Another thing I want to mention, and this is very important when you are installing this, I let it run for a few minutes at a low idle to kind of move the grease around, since I did remove this axle, and it did, spin some of the grease all over the place, but that was because it was very dry and the grease inside was a little watery after I pushed out the old grease, and now it's got the regular general purpose machine grease. It seems to be working a lot better. This bearing here was getting a little warm, so after I refilled it up with grease, everything seems to be normal operating temperature. And another quick update, I did have an issue with the charging system. When you go and turn on the key, both these lights come on. Right now I just shut it off, so it's probably a little bit over 13 volts. But the problem that I was having, this is the voltage discharge sensor, this little M80 firecracker looking thing. It's got a 3-pin Molex connector underneath. This is the regulator, which is cooled off by the fins, which is what gets the power from the stator's AC voltage, and the center pin goes to the charging system, which then runs up back to the starter solenoid on the positive terminal of the battery. For some reason, this thing, it's got some encapsulated electronics. I guess the old one wasn't working right. The battery light was still staying on, and it was charging the battery at 14.2 volts, which is what you want, but it just kept the battery light on. I couldn't figure out why. So a $15 item solved that problem. So there's still a few things I got to do once the weather gets better. Right now, a lot of the snow is melted where I live, but they're calling for a little bit more snow in probably the next week or so. But I'll finally get a chance to use this if there's any sizable storm coming through. I still got to do a major tune-up on it and the whole 9 yards. Same thing with the back end transaxle. The transaxle is working really well, but as you can see here, this is starting to dry rot and crack, which this is the original one. It's been sitting in there for about 10 years, 11 years now. The hose underneath here, it doesn't look dry rotted, but I'm going to replace it anyway. Looks like this was replaced at one time. These are standard hose clamps, so I'm just going to replace the reservoir, change out the oil, clean everything up, and that'll be for when the warmer weather comes around. Now, I did put in the LED lights, so I know a camera is not going to really do it justice, so I'll shut off the lights around here, and then I'll turn on the headlights which is pretty insanely bright considering it uses a standard 1156 bulb, and these bulbs are about $23–25 a piece. But I'm telling you, it is a major difference. But I'm also going to add something else that now that I have the snowblower on here, it's going to look even more bright. Here I have some Maxima 1200 lumen work lights, and just so I didn't have to drill into anything, I actually bought two 95-pound magnets. These things are extremely tight on there, so they're not going to go anywhere, especially for the purposes I'm going to be using it for. So what I'll do is I'll run the wires inconspicuously or out of the way of any moving parts, run it back through the engine front grille here, and tie it right into the headlights, so that when I have it connected, just like your standard blade on a truck, I'll be having some snowblower lights. And finally, to wrap this up until the next major tune-up on the engine and machine, I'm going to bypass the seat safety switch temporarily so I can take a picture of this thing running in action. I probably won't run it at full speed, but I am happy of how it turned out. Alright, so it might be a little loud because I did do the flapper mod, but don't disable this switch permanently. It's there for safety. But here it goes. Kind of slinging some grease a little bit. And that's the end of that. It did sling a little bit of grease, but that's nothing I can't clean up. I just want to make sure that the bearing is running the way it needs to. But hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, please subscribe, and questions, leaving it in the comments down below. Cheers.